Well, good morning. Welcome back to the Prepper Post News, courtesy of Freedom Prepper. I'm Perrin Lovett, and this is Wednesday, March 10th, 2021. Back in the studio with a few more props of the, it's not a studio, it's a coffee shop. That's what it's turning into. Welcome back, everybody, at YouTube, on the community, the webpage, and everybody listening to the podcast. Podcast people, I've added a K-cup box and another bag of coffee to my collection, courtesy of Freedom Roasters Coffee, the best coffee in the whole darn world, says me. All right, let's get right into this. I just noticed a couple of stories that jumped out at me, one from the mainstream media and one from the fake stream conservative quadrant. What's normal? There's no going back to normal, because what's normal is now bad. It's abhorrent and it's shocking. I saw a write-up by David French, the great, there's an error here I've got to correct. The great fake conservative David French, who is a devout Christian. I believe that. He laments that evangelical Christians in America just are not doing their part to perpetuate the ridiculous hoax of 2020 into 2021. Got to be careful with this. On a different matter, not hoaxy at all, he thinks there's good news and bad news. The good news is that 69% of people, as I just reported the other day, 69% of people in America are prepared to get vaccinated. 69% of vaccination. 69 is very close to 70. In fact, it's just one number south of 70, which is the approximate percentage drop that Deagle is looking for in the U.S. population in the next 4 years. So a coincidence? Probably. There's no doubt about it. But anyway, that's the good news. The bad news is that other 31%, according to him, are made up of crazy Christians, of the right wing, which he's supposed to be part of, that just don't care about the health of their community. So I don't know what he knows, but it's an interesting write-up. But always, these gatekeeping fake right people that they just keep putting up time after time after time. William F. Buckley, David French, Ben Shapiro. They're a little different than the mainstream media, the mainstream leftist account of anything, because you'll notice that he starts out, he frames his discussion in terms of, well, what's accepted by the mainstream is true, and we just need to go along with it. Here's how. And always think for yourself. But if you're going to read somebody who, like him, who is at least intelligent. On to the mainstream account, and this is sub-mainstream. The U.S. Sun had a great story about, they were shocked. They were just shocked because all these kids out in Idaho got a trash can, and they publicly took off their face burqas, and they threw them in the trash can and set them on fire. Now, these same kinds of people, 50 years ago, when women were burning their bras to celebrate, the arrival of postmodern, dysgenic America, that was good. That was healthy. People, burning bandit and bank robber masks is abnormal. It's shocking, because, we all, forever, we've always been at war with East Asia. We have always worn face masks, two if possible, even though there's more science that says that's just absolutely pointless. But anyway, not dressing like a bandit and not wanting to be poisoned makes you bad. Just keep that in mind. Let me know what you think about that. I got some more healthy living stories here, and this one has to do with the masks and the social distancing and that strange place that most people have forgotten about called the great outdoors. A conservative woman, That's her blog site, recounts a trip that she took with some friends to a park, a nice open, green, betreed green space in jolly old England. And they were having a good time, talking and laughing, doing what people do, outside in a park. And they were accosted by a group of mask-wearing, bandit-looking Karens, who one of whom proclaimed to be a doctor and told them that what they were doing was very reckless and dangerous, and we know better than you. You need to listen to David French, and don't be shocking. This is dangerous, and you're going to kill everybody by dressing and acting the way that people have acted and dressed for 5,000 years. And the one point of contention with this is the conservative woman, and you can tell she's conservative, not hardcore right wing. She was very pleasant and polite and dialectic in her response. She tried to educate the would-be Dr. Karen, and she specifically refrained from calling her a Karen or other names. I would say go with the rhetoric. Just hit them hard about them, and find out the words that make them uncomfortable. Tell them they're in a cult. Yeah, I'm not part of your cult. Your cult. Your crazy cult with the face diaper. Diapers. What are diapers for? I guess that's what it's on your face for. Leave me alone. But anyway, it's good to see people are outside. More health news. This is a pre-existing vaccine. Lou Rockwell's site had this. Gardasil. Gardasil for girls, and I guess even for boys now, is, what was that designed to cure? Some kind of STD or cervical cancer, and with so many modern voodoo science things, this cure comes along with a pound of prevention is worth, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And sometimes you get a ton of new problems with this meddling, playing God. They're theorizing that Gardasil may be partly to blame, at least, for the increase in infertility, some of which we've talked about recently. And they've got a chart that ranges this century from 2000 up to 2018, and it shows the U.S. birth rate per 1,000 women. And it's, prior to 2006, it was kind of up and down. It peaked around 2006, 2007. Gardasil was introduced mass market in 2006. And after 2007, when it started circulating around in all the syringes and all the young arms, the birth rate just started falling. Now, was this partly due to the Great Recession? Probably. Modern dysgenics, plastics in the water, all that, yeah. But did Gardasil? It's interesting that the big drop off, and it's let's see, the peak was 70 births per 1,000 women, falling down in only 12 years to about 58. So that's a substantial decrease, about a 19% drop over 11 or 12 years. Something to think about. Something to think about. And here's a really disturbing story. I actually wrote my weekly column about this and related matters. We'll see if that gets published. It's universally offensive, and it should be. I call this rewiring alpha. We had Generation X, and they were going to call the millennials Y, but they got millennial. And then the young kids, my daughter's age, are Generation Z. So, these creative generation namers have to just recycle the alphabet. The new generation, the kids born in 2010 to the present, are Generation Alpha. And if you think about it, they are the first generation that has grown up all their lives completely immersed in television, tablets, computers, and everybody's got a smartphone. Smartphone came out in 2007? 3 years before these kids were any of them were born. So all their lives, they're looking at screens all the time. Educators, schools, public and private, have switched over to screens for everything. All kinds of screens, large screens, small screens. Bring your phone to class. It's not prohibited anymore. You need to stare at it and peck away at it. Um, all the screen time. Take a look at this study, and I found a better study, mainly about television, from Japan from a few years ago. But uh, all these screens with the moving shapes and colors and patterns, it acts like a drug on the brain. It literally acts like a benzo or an opiate, and over time, it produces dopamine. It makes you it you know people say they're vegging out watching television. They're literally vegging out, and so are the kids and everybody else looking at their phones. Over time, it starts to have physical changes in the brain. I think 6 or 7 brain centers can be thickened or deformed because of this exposure, which can cause depression, increased aggression, symptoms of ADD and ADHD. It can limit visual uh, analysis capability, limits vocabulary. It's even found to it's even shown that it can lower general IQ. And what this new study, this is a study out of Hungary that I linked to. They find that this process quickly does a universal shift of right brain to left brain. I think that's right. Yeah, right to left. The left would be the creative side brain. Some people are more creative than others, and the left, right is creative, left is analytical. It shifts everybody over to analytical, but it's not like an accountant looking for numbers or an engineer trying to flip switches. To me, it looks more like an autistic. You can see the information, but you can't process it. You can't express it. And what they're pointing out is that these kids, literally, the old cliche, they can't see the forest for the trees, and you're wiping out abstract thinking in our newest generation. And the previous 3 generations came under assault too from this, but these kids have got it 100% all the time. And one thing they point out about the schools is, well, it'd be nice if the teachers could find some alternative to all these screens. If you've been to a public school lately, and my condolences if you have, they used to have these things called books, and they don't use them so much anymore. Books don't really cause this. Books cause an opposite effect. When you start reading, it gets the gears working, and it makes you think harder, and it makes the more you read, the more you want to read, the more you want to think about it. So I'm just suggesting maybe can the screens, and not this screen, of course. The screen you're watching is perfectly safe. I wore my subliminal red shirt today to get you to buy more coffee, but limit the kids' exposure, for God's sake, and open a book. And speaking of books, good old Tom DiLorenzo. Tom DiLorenzo ran the books on this American Rescue Plan, the $2 trillion waste of taxpayer. It's not even taxpayer money. It's not even money. It's just a giant debt that will accumulate and never be paid, because America needs rescuing. The people need their $1,400 bailout again. This is starting to look like universal basic income. When they have to give you $900, $1,200, $1,400, you're going to start to expect it, and then when it doesn't come in, you're going to be angry. Look for another one, this summer or this fall, and look for this to just never end. But here's the thing: there are the $2 trillion in this one idiotic bill, and there are about, according to Tom, 145 million U.S. taxpayers. So that's $13,000 per taxpayer to give $1,400 to each citizen. And that's assuming, and not every citizen is going to get it. But if they did, 330 million people times 1,400 comes up to about, I think it's $450 billion out of $2 trillion. Where's the 2/3 going? And, we've already covered the answer to that. Pork, buying votes, bribes, reverse bribes, payouts, greasing the wheels of the infernal machine that keeps cranking out this fake nonsense that your kids are going to have to pay off someday, even though they don't have vocabularies or abstract reasoning ability or jobs. It's going to be great. Just going to be great. Kind of looks like a culture of collapse. I've got 3 stories that kind of fit right in with that. The first one is about international affairs. Now they frame this in terms of Joe Biden. I say quote unquote Joe Biden because we know that poor Joe is a prisoner and a victim of elder abuse. But the people behind, with a whip, behind Joe Biden want to get revenge on China and Iran for the roles that they played in the electoral fraud of. I know. I'm sorry. No. They want to attack Russia. Russia. Always Russia. And they're going to do it. This is an RT story. You got to go to Russia to get news about America and Russia. They're pushing cyber warfare, very specific, very directed against the Russian military and the Kremlin. Not going to hurt the private sector over there. We don't want to hurt them yet, but they're going to know what we've done to them with this. It's revenge for the hoax that never happened, the Russia hoax. Cyber warfare, everybody pretty much is in agreement, is warfare. And if you engage in it, you could expect, third generation, tactical reprisals. So this is all just part of the insane, utterly insane push for a war between the United States and Russia. A war that, could only benefit the banksters and the Illuminati if they don't get incinerated with the rest of us. Just batshit crazy. But we've got some good things happening. We've got some good things. Sometimes the rhetoric, Karen, the rhetoric in the park comes out, and sometimes it's too effective. If you start throwing out a term and they ban it, it's working. And that term, I'm surprised I didn't hear about this one. It's beautiful. It's a play on QAnon against the left. It's called Blue Anon. And read this from the Post Millennial talking about Blue Anon. It's left-wing politicians and bureaucrats and influencers are pushing these crazy conspiracy theories about some sort of nebulous Russia collusion and a hoax invasion of the Capitol that never happened. It's hilarious, and Twitter and all the other usual suspects are banning it because, it works, so they've got to cover it up. The way we're covered up in junk. This, I took a drive. I came out of the cave and took a drive the other day to somewhere else. And the whole way, I noticed that it looked like I was driving, and this is a nice, decent part of the United States. But and it's late winter too, so when it greens up, it'll get a little nicer. But I looked at all the trash lying around and the junk appliances and the busted tires, cars broke down on the side of the road. It looked like I was driving through a third world country after a tornado hit it. Rushvi has an article about that, about how America is just awash in cheap foreign-made junk. We get a high quantity of low-quality stuff, and he goes through 10 or 12 examples of things that he's bought, consumer goods in the past, several years. They all break down instantly, immediately. Everything's designed to break. And he has a funny story about Weber grills. I think it's Weber. I don't want to defame anybody, but yeah, it's Weber. The Weber grills on sale in America are made in China, and it's almost like they were designed to break down. In Germany, they use Weber grills that are made in America that last longer. Why? Because Germans are meticulous and they want quality and high standards of engineering. So they get our stuff that we make. We, sacrifice $10, save $10, and import the junk. Would it not make more sense to sell American grills to Americans in America that last? Probably not. He also, I love the 70s. He says that he feels like Fred Sanford in his house full of junk. Fred Sanford is not in the prepper lexicon, but there's a whole bunch of other terminology that you need to know, especially if you're new to the hobby, the lifestyle. And this comes courtesy of the one and only Daisy Luther, possibly the best prepper author out there by my money. At the Organic Prepper, I've got a link to her new dictionary of prepper terms. Some you know, some you may not know. For instance, we've got the BOB, the bug out bag. You know what that is, or you should look it up if not. She also has links to what all this stuff really means, in addition to the definition. She also has the BOL, which is important but frequently overlooked. If you're bugging out, where are you going? You're going to the bug out location, the BOL. This is a retreat to which you plan to relocate should your home become compromised. Just things to think about. It's not all acronyms, although much of it is. Take a look at that, and that's all I got. Buy some coffee. Coffee, I think, look under C, coffee, you'll find a picture of Freedom Roasters, where we bring you quality every day, quality that is not junk. See, even when you're done with the K-Pod box, you can use it as a decoration in your coffee shop studio. I'll be back tomorrow. Y'all have a wonderful Wednesday.